It's with great pleasure that I introduce Yousef because he was actually the first speaker to confirm for this event about a year or so ago. Yousef is the VP of Marketing and Analytics at Careem, and he will be asking the question today, the richest man in the world? Question mark. So with that said, please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Julia. It's a pretty funny day today. I kind of realized this when I was talking to someone earlier. I actually dropped out of college 20 years ago today. And here I am today speaking at an MBA Alumni Forum. So, funny how the world works. If you met me in January 2015, you would have been pretty impressed by who I am and what you might have seen. At the time, we'd sold, let me see if I can get this thing to work, and then we'll be good. Yep, there we go. All right. In February 2012, I was the CEO and a shareholder in a digital agency called Flip Media, and we'd sold it to Leo Burnett, one of the biggest advertising groups in the world. Not only that, I was married to a beautiful woman who was also a very successful advertising executive. And we'd also bought a beautiful house, and we were renovating it, and life looked pretty sweet. And I was very much the talk of the town when it came to business and digital media. So much so that when Bloomberg Businessweek launched their Middle East edition, their first issue, the back page was dedicated to an interview with me called How Did I Get Here? Pretty impressive, right? So it seemed like I was somebody who had everything that they wanted in life. Well, nearly everything, because there was one thing I didn't have, which was a Ferrari. I didn't have a lot of money for most of my life. I spent a lot of my money taking care of my family, put my sister through a master's degree, paid for my brother's education. So on the day we actually sold our business, I had $20 in my bank account. And when the announcement was done and the press conferences and all the meetings and everything was over, I actually went to my room and shut the door of my office and spent my lunch break on the Ferrari website, customizing the dream California I was going to buy when we were done and I was going to be rich and have lots of money. And it was pretty exciting. So fast forward to January 2015. Our business has been sold. I'm this successful businessman, and I'm standing outside a Starbucks with a coffee, and this gorgeous red Ferrari California goes by. And I think to myself, oh yeah, if I bought that Ferrari, I'd be so happy right now. And a little voice in my head said, dude, that's a $200,000 car. And then there was another thought that came into my head that was going to change my life, but I'll get to that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind a bit. I'm somebody who's always struggled with their weight, and I was a fat kid growing up. And if you met me when I was 27 years old in 2003, I was an up-and-coming advertising executive, but I looked like somebody who'd had one too many late-night pizzas in the office. I worked my ass off, and I was really fat and really unhealthy. And I remember my dad and I used to do this thing where we'd sit on the couch at night. We'd sit on the couch at night and watch TV together, and we'd usually fall asleep on the couch. And eventually my dad would get up, and he was an old man, and he had a bad hip, and he would kind of hobble to the kitchen, and he'd get some orange juice or some chocolate out of the fridge to kind of get his blood sugar levels up. And one night in 2003, I'd been playing football with my friends, and it hurt my back, and I got up, and I limped off the couch, and went to the fridge and got the orange juice out, and I went, oh my God, I'm not going to become a fat old man. I'm 27 and I already am one. And I resolved that day to do something about it. And so I started dieting and I started exercising and I started to find new ways to challenge myself with my health and fitness. So I went and I climbed Jabal Tubqal, the highest mountain in North Africa. I started running. This is the Two Oceans Ultra Marathon in Cape Town. It's a 56-kilometer run that touches the two oceans in Africa. I also climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I loved that 56K marathon. I went and ran it again the second year. And I even went to Machu Picchu. So life was looking pretty good. So suddenly I was healthier, I was fitter, and life started to fall into place. And not only that, I fell in love with a beautiful woman who would go on to become my wife. So life was pretty sweet. And from a business perspective, things were looking pretty good too. Our digital agency that I joined, where I was the CEO, we were the talk of the town. We went from 20 people to 180 people in the course of 4 years. It was an incredible business that we built, and we were incredibly successful, and we did really, really well. But this success over time came at a price. And it's a common thing that happens to so many of us who achieve success in some aspects of our life. And this is kind of what I've learned along the way, is that your life is built on a pyramid. And the foundation of that pyramid is your health and your fitness. And if you're not healthy and if you're not fit, you've really got nothing. And what builds on top of that then is your family and your friends, the people around you who support you and love you and make you better every day. And then comes work. Like, work really needs to be the byproduct of everything else in your life that makes you happy. But like so many other people, this is what my triangle looked like. Work at the expense of everything else. And suddenly we were working late, we were working hard, we were on those 7 a.m. flights to Saudi Arabia, eating crap, drinking too much, smoking too much, anything at the expense of work. And it's a funny thing we all do when it comes to work, because we wear that self-abuse like a badge of honor. Oh, I've got no time for my family, I've got no time for exercise, I'm so busy, work, 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 work. And the funny thing is, it's kind of amazing what happens, because the first thing that you kind of give up is your friends and your family, because you're focusing on work and you're staying up late and you're too tired to see people and you're too tired to give people of yourself. And then you kind of give away yourself as well, because the only thing I learned I had an unlimited supply of was myself. And so when we sold our business and we went through a very challenging earn-out period, I literally felt like I was tearing strips off myself to try to keep that business going, to keep making money, to keep the profits up, to make the targets we'd set with the company that acquired us, to try and get to that point where I was rich enough to buy that Ferrari. And I remember my wife at one point said to me, I know you're doing this for our future, but on January 1st, when this earn-out is over, I'd really like my husband back. Because you've just become a broken shell of a man, and you're not the man I married, and you're not the man I fell in love with. And we just keep working, and you keep plugging away, and I kept going, and I kept going. And so you fast forward to January 2015, and suddenly my company has become a case study, which is being featured in business conferences, and everybody's talking about us as the great tech exit of the Middle East. But at the same time, this was me. As they say, people want to be fat, rich, and happy. So was I rich? Maybe. Was I fat? Yes. Was I happy? Not really. So this was me weighing 115 kilos. My marriage was falling apart, and I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. And I thought, you say to yourself, oh, I've achieved all the success, I've made it. But at what price? And I was so unhappy. Even though on the outside looking in, you'd think I had everything to be happy about. So there I am in front of that Starbucks with my coffee, and that red Ferrari California goes by. And I thought to myself, if I bought this Ferrari, I'd be so happy, because I could actually afford one now. And the voice in my head said to me, that car is $200,000. Surely you'd be happier if you were just fit and healthy. And I thought to myself, shit, I'm right. Because if you bought a Ferrari, you ride it for an hour a day, 2 hours a day, and you feel really good in it. But what about your body? What about that thing you live inside 24 hours a day? And suddenly I realized that I could have something for free that was going to make me happier than something that would cost me $200,000. And I decided that day that I wanted to make my health and fitness my priority. And so I went home and very proudly told my wife, look, I'm signing up for a fitness challenge. It's a 4-week challenge. You control your diet. You've got to exercise 4 times a week. Great. And I went to the gym, and I hadn't been to that gym for 3 years. And I was absolutely terrified by what they think, but luckily they were really good and really welcoming and let me back in. And I started my fitness challenge on the Sunday. Sunday was great, Monday was great, Tuesday, and I was plugging away, and I was kind of making progress, and I was on the right track. And then on the Thursday night, my world fell apart. My wife and I had been really struggling for a long time, and our marriage was becoming increasingly frayed. And that Thursday night, as we say, my marriage literally blew up. I left the house, I went and slept in a hotel, and both my wife and I agreed that night that there was no way we could be married to each other anymore. And I woke up on the Friday morning in a hotel, and 2 things went through my mind. The first was a realization that my wife and I were actually going to get divorced after 5 years of marriage. And the second thing was I had a gym appointment at 9 a.m. And I thought to myself, this is a bit of a fork in the road, Yousef, because I could actually say to myself, you know what, this is the perfect excuse. Like, I'm about to get divorced. Like, I could just go have a Big Mac or go get drunk or do whatever I want right now, and I've got the perfect excuse. Or I can put on my sneakers and go to the gym and try to do something positive. And luckily, I did the right thing. And I went to the gym that morning, and I promised myself that day that no matter what happened for the rest of my life, nothing would ever get in the way of my health and making myself feel better as a person. And over the last 18 months, I used the divorce and that change in my life to renegotiate every aspect of my life. I decided that everything that had gotten me to where I was at the age of 39 was subject to renegotiation, and everything was. And so I changed my choice of friends, I changed my lifestyle, I decided to quit my job, and I took 2 months off and just traveled across America, just hiking and backpacking and walking in the mountains. I came back, I took a job making 40% less money than I was before. But over the last 18 months, I've gotten to a point where, look, there was a footballer before me, so I'm definitely not the richest or the fittest guy in this room, let's face it. And there's a bunch of MBAs, you're all richer than me, I'm sure. But I found something along the way that really made me genuinely happy. And where I am today is a really nice place, and I wanted to share with you 3 things that I've learned along the way. The first one is to surround yourself with people who add to your life. When I split up with my wife, I decided to renegotiate everybody who was in my life, because everybody either adds or subtracts from your life. People either make you better or they make you worse. And I realized that 90% of my friends were people who actually made me worse. So I fired them. I fired them all. I was like, I'll still see you in the bar or nightclub, but I'm not going to waste my time with you anymore. But the really positive people are the ones that make you better. And I was so lucky, because the day my wife and I decided to break up, I called my best friend who lives in Dubai, and I said, listen, I need a place to stay for a couple of days. Do you mind? And he's like, yeah, is everything okay? I'm like, I'll tell you when I get there. And I went to stay with him, and this is my best friend, Martin. And I'm really lucky, because Martin was training for an Ironman. And so what better person to live with when you're actually trying to get in shape and lose weight than a guy who trains 12 times a week and doesn't have a single bad thing in his fridge. And so it was really good. So it was actually like when they said, when God closes a door, he opens a window. And I was so lucky to be surrounded by somebody like him who could continue to inspire me and keep me on my fitness journey and push me forward. The second thing I learned is to set goals and find your motivation. I think, look, you're all really good at this bit, because you all are very motivated people and very successful people. And fitness and health very much works in the same way. Because what people do say, I'm going to go run a 10K. And you go and you train 3 times a week and you eat really well, and you run your 10K, and you cross the finish line, and you're like, I'm done. And then we stop working towards that goal, and we slip. And we go, oh no, better do it again. And you build up to that goal. And then you slip, and then you build up again. And you repeat that over and over again. But the trick really is that every time you get close to achieving a goal when it comes to your health or your fitness, find another one. So for me, I decided to go out and run a 10K. And when I got there, I said, you know what? I'm going to run a 21K. Then I'm going to run a marathon. Then I'm going to run an ultra marathon. And so always find something next that's going to scare you a little bit and put you out of your comfort zone to constantly push you forward with your health and your fitness, the same way you do in life and in business. And find things to motivate you, because we all need to get up with a reason every day for why we want to do this. For some of you, it might just be, I want to get fit because I just want to look good naked. That's a really good excuse, by the way, and it's great. Maybe it's to impress a girl, right? I was training to run a marathon last summer, and so there was this girl called Lindsay that I was trying to impress. And I told her, listen, if I get 4 hours, 30 minutes, I'll be really happy. If I get 4:15, I'll be thrilled. And in my head, in my calculations, I was working towards a 4:15. The day before the marathon, I get a message from Lindsay that says, good luck this weekend, I'll be cheering for the 4:15. And I was actually walking down the street with my mom, and I went, oh, shit. She told me I got to get the 4:15. I'm like, damn, I got to recalculate everything now, and I've got to get 4:15 to impress this girl. And so then I actually messaged my friend Tom, and I said, I told the girl I'm trying to impress that I'm going for 4:15. Do not underestimate the lengths we will go to impress pretty girls. I'm going to leave it all out there this weekend. And I actually went out there, and I was visualizing the whole race, the WhatsApp message I was going to send her when I broke 4:15. And I got 4:06, which was great. And actually, when I went out on a date with her a few weeks later, I said, do you know what? I've got to show you something. And she was so impressed and so touched. It worked. And make every hour of your day count. Because the easiest thing is to say, I've got no time for exercise. I've got no time for my friends. I've got no time for my hobbies. You do. You just have to find them. And what I do is I actually outlook the shit out of my life. If it's not a meeting request, it's not going to happen. So every single thing in my life, be it exercise, catch-up lunches, haircuts, cooking, date night, drinking, every single hour of my life is planned in advance, a week or a month in advance. And I know this is what I've got to do for my training. This is the time I'm making for my friends. Everything else can fit into it. And when I say literally everything gets an Outlook meeting request, I mean everything. This is the meeting request I sent my wife in 2010 that said, marriage, Dubai court, July 14, 2010. Unfortunately, I sent her another meeting request last year called Le Divorce, when I met her back at the Dubai courts and we got divorced. Thankfully, very amicably and we're still great friends. So that's been my journey, and I know we're all MBAs and everything, so let's talk a bit about KPIs, right? Let's talk about results. So my blood pressure's gone down from 120 over 80 to 108 over 69. I have a better blood pressure now than I did when I was 15. My resting heart rate's gone from 62 to 49 BPM. My waist has gone from 38 to 31 inches. I've had to buy a new wardrobe 4 times in the last year, which probably cost more than that Ferrari in the end anyway. My weight's gone from 115 to 85 kilos. My body fat's gone down to 8%. Boys, 8% is a really good number because that's when the six-pack starts to show. It's really fucking cool. It's like a new toy. My marathon time went down, as we know, to 4:06, and my smoking habit went from 20 a day to 0. Also, the number of wives I have went from 1 to 0, but I'm not sure that's something to be proud of. But that's it. But really, the thing that really matters, it's not really the results, because the results are great, you know? So every year I go and I get myself measured by the doctors and I feel really good about the results. But it's everything else that's come beyond that, be it if I'm out clubbing with a bunch of pretty girls, if I'm running that marathon, if I'm giving speeches, if I'm hiking in the hills over Malibu, or if I'm just playing with my 2-year-old niece on the swings and I can keep up with her boundless energy. My life has become so much richer and so much more colorful because of it. And kind of what I realized along the way is I didn't actually need a lot of money or anything to make myself the richest man in the world, and I really didn't need that Ferrari after all. Thank you very much.